Hello everyone and welcome back to another furniture flipping video. My name is Samuel with Cedar Pine Designs, and in today's video we have a 9-drawer mid-century style dresser with some very minimal wear and tear on it. I think we can turn this into something really cool, so let's jump straight into this one and get our hands dirty. So straight away I get right to work with removing all the drawers and all the pulls. And I know some people are probably gonna not like this very much, but I am gonna be painting this one for the most part and removing and replacing all the hardware. I think it's a really cool idea, and we'll get to that later on in the video. As I do with every project, I give it a good cleaning and a once over just to double check for any damage and give me any ideas that I might have to change during the process, because sometimes I'll have an idea for a piece and midway through or during the cleaning process I'll find that I have to change my idea slightly according to any kind of damage that I find. So there are some veneer chips in the front drawers, so that's why I decided to just try to paint most of it. I'm using some Bondo wood filler so that I can fill all the holes, all the deep scratches, and mainly too I like to use this because it dries a lot harder, so it's good for filling all those drawer pull holes. One of the only drawbacks that I've found using actual Bondo wood filler, it is a 2-part wood filler so it dries a lot harder, is that if you build it up or cake it on too heavy, it does take a lot more sanding, so you can't really go over it with a hand sander. You have to use an orbital electrical sander, as you see right here in the video. So just kind of keep it light. If you have to, kind of like I did 2 coats, because after you sand it you'll still see some little dips in it, so just keep that in mind. So because I am mostly painting this entire piece aside from the 3 middle drawers, and I have a really cool idea that you're going to see me perform later on in the video, but everything just gets some wood filler and it gets scuff sanding with, I think I'm using 150 grit sandpaper. That is what I usually use. It just gives it a nice scuff coat so that the paint has something to bond to. So for this piece I decided to use a color that I've never used before. It's another color by Behr. It's called Oxford Street with a satin finish. It's a very tan color, and because the idea that I have for the center drawers, the color kind of similarly plays off of this color, so I decided to give it a try and we'll see how it goes. I've been told recently in some of my videos by some viewers that there is a lot better high quality paint out there, and I don't disagree with that, but I've had really good luck with Behr. I've tried Sherwin-Williams, I've tried Benjamin Moore, and I haven't tried any of the higher end paints. But if anybody wants to give me any kind of ideas or suggestions to paint that I can look into, and I definitely give it a look. But as far as using latex water-based Behr paint with a polyurethane top coat over it, I've never had any issues with chipping, scratching, or it just not working well for me. So any ideas? Drop them in the comments. For pieces that have a lot of scratches and a lot of gouges, the first coat of paint I like to use as a reference to show me any defects that I may have missed while I was using the wood filler. So it just acts to show all of the defects after your first coat, and then it gives you a chance to kind of correct that before you get further into painting. So right here I'm drilling out the holes for the new hardware, and I drew a center line, and not down the center of the face, but where the holes existing were, just so that the hardware covers it. But after doing so, I forgot that the pattern that I'm using on the front of those drawers isn't going to line up. So because the wood grain on this dresser wasn't very detailed and didn't have a lot of depth and contrast to it, I decided to try to do something that I've never tried before for those drawer fronts, and I'm taking a piece of finished plywood and I'm cutting it into, I'm not sure of the measurement, I just kind of eyeballed it, but it's really thin strips, thick enough to where they won't fall apart, but I had to cut a ton of these. As you can see, I'm just cutting and cutting and cutting long strips. And then later on, I will then cut those strips down to create a pattern on the front of the drawers. Once I'm done ripping this piece of finished plywood all the way down, I'm going to take all of these pieces over to my miter saw and I'm gonna cut them into specific length strips. Depending on your piece, the strips and the length will differ, but I'm going to cut them to a certain length, and then I'm going to give them all a 45-degree angle because I'm going to do a herringbone style chevron pattern for the front. All of this work just to make the design on the front was definitely worth it to me. It is a lot of work, and it took me a better part of a day just to get all of these prepped out, cut up, and ready to go, sifting through them and getting rid of any of the ones that may have not cut very well. To make the process go by a little bit faster, I used a stop block at the exact length that I wanted these to, so that I didn't have to fiddle around with them. I could just butt them straight up to the wood block and get all the same precise cuts throughout. Really quickly, I'd like to just give a huge thanks to everybody that watches my videos and is consistently in the comments, giving me all the support. I really appreciate it, and it's the best part of creating content when I get to interact with people that like to come in and either compliment me or give me positive feedback, criticism, ideas. It's great, I love it, and thank you very much. Keep it up. As you can see, because of the design that I chose for the faces, I wanted to draw a center line because that's where my hardware is actually going to sit, on the face of those. So because the face is going to be covered anyway, I was able to just re-drill some new holes, and I'm laying out some glue because this is where I'm going to lay out my herringbone style chevron pattern. For my first two pieces, I do use a pin nailer to keep those in place because that's going to set the tone for the rest of the pieces, and as long as those are perfect, then the rest will fall right in line. And I do come back later on with a pin nailer, and I use that to secure everything along with the glue. So this design was actually a lot easier than I thought it was going to be. All you have to do really is just make sure those two first pieces are lined up, all the rest will follow, and you leave a little bit of excess hanging over the edge. And there are a lot of techniques that you can use to clean that edge up. I've seen people use like a track saw with a track and a skill saw to cut those. You can use a router with a straight bit, but for me, I'm using a jigsaw to cut those, and you'll see that later on in the video. So right here I'm adding a little bit of white paint to the mix so that way I can lighten up that tan color, because for me I felt it was a little too dark, and you can see that it lightened up the tone just a little bit, and I was much more happy with that because it would match more with the color of the plywood that I'm using for those 3 drawers. So right here I'm using a straight edge, which is a long level, to give myself a nice straight line, and I use my jigsaw to cut the excess off of every drawer, and it worked great. I went over it with my Festool sander just to get it nice and clean and butt it up straight to the edge, and that's it. I must have forgotten to film it, but I filled all the cracks and voids with wood filler because it does match, because I'm using a natural color, and everything came out perfect. I was very happy. If you're a regular viewer of this channel, you know that I love Verathane's polyurethane in a satin finish. It is water-based, so it mixes well with the water-based paint that I like to use, and I just don't see the point of not tinting your polyurethane. It just adds more paint and protection to your piece. For the 3 drawers in the middle, I wanted it to be as natural as possible, so I didn't tint it with the paint because I wanted that nice color of the plywood to pop through. And then I'm going to go through and I'm going to reattach all the new drawer pulls, and I really love this style drawer pull. It's really modern and it gives it a nice contrast against that tan, and especially against that nice plywood face that I put on it. I'm super happy with it. So I did like the original base that came with this dresser, but I felt that it was a little too low and it didn't really go with the style that I was going for. Also, the color would have probably not matched. So I'm gonna go ahead and remove that, and I'm trying these black legs that I'm not really sure what style they're called, but they're more of a modern, just a straight leg. They kind of stick out on the sides a little bit. I thought it would be really cool, and I decided to go with that. So this base was only held on by 4 screws on each side and a little bit of wood glue, and as you can see, it came off fairly easy. You just have to persuade it a little bit with a chisel and a hammer. So these legs come with like 3/4 inch screws that are perfect size to not penetrate the other side of the wood. And as you can see here, they do have a couple of inches of exposed leg that go up the side of the dresser, which I thought would match perfectly with the hardware, and it would give it a really nice contrast against that tan color. Now that I'm finished adding the new legs and all the hardware to the drawers, I get to my favorite part of any project. I get to install all the drawers and put this thing back together so I can get a really good look at how it turned out. And I have to say that I am very happy with the way this piece turned out. Please let me know in the comments below if you like the style herringbone pattern that I created for the front drawers. So let's go ahead and take a look at how this turned out. Now that we all got a good look at how it turned out, please let me know what you think in the comments below, and as always, let's go over the numbers. For this one, I did pay $50 for, which was a steal. It's actually made by Huntley Furniture Company. I have maybe $25 in paint and $25 in material, which is a $100 investment in total. So far, I have it listed for $550, and I haven't gotten it sold yet, but I'm pretty sure that it's going to go pretty soon, and I'll give everybody an update on that later. Once again, big thanks to everybody who stops by and watches all my content. Please leave a like, subscribe if you want to see more content like this. Thank you very much, and I'll see you on the next one.